Greetings, WAP Warriors. Brad Anderson here. Just going over some Unit 1 information. I also have on this slideshow Unit 2 that we'll be going over in subsequent days. We're going to be talking about the global tapestry and networks of exchange from 1200 to 1450 CE. New time period. This is a transitional period for human history. It's just before Columbian contact in the late 1400s. And so let's explore the world that the global tapestry and the variations of civilizations that existed in the 250-year period, 1200 to 1450. As you read last night, the Song Dynasty, China was in its golden age, 960 to 1279 CE. There was an advanced state structure with personnel, finance, rights, army, justice, public works, and a censorate that administered a well-oiled machine of government in China. It was considered to be the best ordered state in the world at the time, and China was where there was this very well organized state structure, technology, public works, all came to fruition in cities like Hangzhou, population 1 million, please forgive my pronunciation. Even Marco Polo, when he visited Hangzhou, was quoted as saying, "This might be the best city in the world." There were internal waterways. The iron industry flourished with crossbow bolts, coins, tools, bells, and so metallurgy was a highly prized function of society. Paper money, paper making. You also had gunpowder, which was on its way to being developed. But you also had, of course, gender differences and cultural aspects to society that were prevalent. Calligraphy, painting, Buddhist sculpture, ceramics. And then you had fast ripening, drought-resistant rice that allowed for a population increase in China during this time, a significant increase. Gunpowder, which was a mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal, also developed during this time period, which was going to allow for rocketry, fireworks, and eventually firearms. The printing of books. Oftentimes, Europeans get credit for the printing press, but it was actually Chinese who would develop the printing press and movable type woodblock type printing. Women in the Song Dynasty saw a revival of Confucianism and filial piety and foot binding, which was a byproduct of these belief systems, as you see in the image there, which was a very painful, constrictive, but also socially desirable method of constricting your feet to make them smaller. China also had a tribute system with surrounding areas whereby surrounding cultures and smaller states and lesser states would bring quantities of silk, silver, and tea to the emperor, to the administration. They would perform a ceremony of kowtow and in a rite of subservience, and visitors would show reverence to the emperor through this particular practice. If you would like to see more, you can click on this link. I think it still works. It's an Engineering the Empire episode, which gives you a little bit more inside scoop about this time period in China. So, no doubt, Song China, the Song Dynasty, was an influential time of flourishing in China, and was highly influential not only in China, but also to its neighbors. In Korea, Korean Wangs resisted political control. Those were upper-class elite. The Silla Kingdom allied with the Tang Dynasty, which was a result in a tributary relationship where Korean aristocrats were heavily influenced by China, but they were able to maintain their independence from China, albeit by way of a tributary relationship. Now, Vietnam, on the other hand, was part of China for the better part of 800 years, which was a rich rice-growing region, and achieved independence via a rebellion in 938 CE. but also maintained a tributary status with China. What a tributary status means, again, is China being the dominant force, hegemonic force in the area, in the region. These lesser states would, again, send a representative to kowtow before the emperor. They would send quantities of silk or tea or rice or any goods that were desirable in order to show their subservience to China as a dominant force in the area. Think of it as kind of a form of tax, essentially. Now, in Japan is a little bit different, obviously, because it's an island nation. Japan was unified under Shotoku Taishi in the 17-article Constitution in 622 CE, heavily influenced by Buddhism and Confucianism, with a system that looked very similar to that of the Chinese, with emperor, taxation, law codes, ministries, provinces, and capital cities. So no doubt that the Japanese borrowed a lot and were heavily influenced by China, but Japan was largely a decentralized political authority comprised of, and that should say samurai. I'm going to change that right now, mid video, to make sure that has an I. There we go. These absolutely Hollywood, professionally produced Brad Anderson videos. And the decentralized society was comprised of daimyo, which were large landowners, and their warriors, the samurai warrior class. The samurai warrior class came to be very well respected and well known, even beyond Japan, and the samurai culture of honor, bravery, and the martial arts was known as Bushido, which translates as the way of the warrior. And there was this cultural attitude and this cultural belief in service and loyalty and honor and focus on the martial arts would be pervasive in Japan all the way up to the 1800s, late 1800s, revived then in the World War II era as well. But certainly Japan, although maintained its total independence, did not have to pay tribute to China, but was influenced by Chinese aspects culturally, but again was its own domain. Again, and I believe you already have seen this particular slide from the last slideshow, but again, thank you, China, for the following items: the iron plow, cast iron, paper currency, the wheelbarrow, the rudder, suspension bridge, porcelain, the magnetic compass, and gunpowder. Those are unmovable type printing press. Those are all excellent examples down the line for a short answer question, a long essay question, a document-based question, when you will need to draw upon your deep well of historical knowledge. You cannot go wrong being able to provide 3 examples out of, hey, what kind of technologies did China contribute to the world? Now, shifting gears, for those of you that do have time and you want to stop it and take a moment, you can watch this Crash Course World History. I always recommend the Crash Course World Histories. They're a fantastic aspect that you can check out on your own time. John Green moves pretty quickly, but he goes over a lot of the same ground that I do. Now, again, the rise of Islam saw the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca flee to Medina, return to Mecca, espousing his belief of the 5 pillars, belief in one God, Allah, prayer, daily prayer, charity and almsgiving, fasting during the month of Ramadan, and pilgrimage once in your lifetime at least to Mecca. Islam expanded quickly, as we know, through the Quran and through Sharia law into North Africa, Spain, and Asia Minor, which we will discuss in a little bit more detail here shortly. The rise of Islam saw the centerpiece of the Kabaa, the shrine to one God, Allah, in the city of Mecca, which is still to this day a centerpiece of the pilgrimage. Muhammad was not only a spiritual leader, but he was a political and military leader as well, and those that would follow in his footsteps would be the same. For the most part, Arab Muslims would defeat the Sassanid Empire in Persia. They would reduce and severely diminish Byzantine lands near Anatolia. They would conquer Spain in the 700s and take root there until the 1400s. There is, however, a difference and a divide within the Islamic faith, and Sunni Muslims believe that caliphs or leaders were the rightful and political military leaders selected by the Islamic community, whereas Shia Muslims believe that leadership should derive from the line of Ali and Hussein, who were relatives of Muhammad. And so that divide, again, exists to this day within the Islamic faith. And it has been a source of some, disputes, obviously, and conflicts all throughout history. Now, it is well to say, of course, that the Islamic world produced an incredible amount of thinking and intellectual advancements and technological advancements that certainly our world has benefited from. And I would pick one of these examples. Al-Khwarizm spread the use of Arabic numerals, which we use to this day. Also printed the first book on algebra. Ibn al-Farnes first sustained flight in Cordoba in Spain. Al-Razi, discovered of sulfuric acid, wrote the first encyclopedia, the idea to write down all these different facts about everything in the world. Ibn Sina co-authored authored the Canon on Medicine, which has been helpful in the advancements of the medical field. Nasir al-Din Tusi built an observatory, mapped the motion of the stars and the planets. And then Ibn Khaldun, the greatest Arab historian who documented much of the of the Islamic world. Now, the spread of Islam took root in places like Anatolia, which is now modern-day Turkey. Anatolia at the time was ruled by the Byzantines until the 11th century. We'll be talking about the Byzantines a little bit more down the line. There was a population of 8 million. The invasion of the Turkish Ottomans would seriously erode the Byzantine lands and push further and further towards what is known as the Straits of the Straits of Bosporus, or the Dardanelles, where Constantinople, kind of the jewel of the Mediterranean, was. This Turkish invasion was cause for a total disruption of life in Anatolia. There was discrimination against the Christians by the ruling Turks. Christians were required to pay a tax and to wear special clothing. So Turks did welcome converts and doled out rewards to those that decided to make the conversion to Islam. What made it easier and palatable was that Islam was monotheistic, as was Christianity, so the conversion was an easier lateral move into the Islamic faith. Sufis or mystics set up schools, mills, orchards, hospices, and rest stops, which also created an attractive situation for the conquered peoples of Anatolia. When you have schools set up and literacy is promoted, you have mills and you have hospices for people who are at the end of their life, and you see how the Islamic Sufi mystics are treating others. It again becomes an attractive element of the Islamic faith. In the Turkish military, you had the Janissaries, which were a standing army. They are considered by many to be the first gunpowder soldiers in the world. They used firearm weapons and were the first to do so. There was also the practice in Anatolia, Turkish-controlled Anatolia, of the practice of the devshirme, which was the practice of impounding Christian boys into the civil service, converting them to Islam, and then promoting them up through the system and the bureaucracy of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Some would become Janissaries, others would become highly esteemed and honorable bureaucrats. Islam would be firmly in place by 1500 in Anatolia, and it would be in 1453 when the Ottoman Turks would conquer Constantinople and would complete their grasp on the Mediterranean Black Sea region in the east there. I will go through this last slide here as I'm reaching up. Actually, please forgive me, I'm reaching my 15-minute limit, and so I'm going to cut it short there. We'll pick up with the spread of Islam into India, West Africa, and Spain on our next video.